Most men don't fall apart loudly. They keep going, they perform, they carry it until something finally gives. On this podcast, we talk about what's actually happening beneath the surface for men. Anxiety that won't shut off, identity questions that run in the background, and the isolation that slowly erodes our strength. Today's conversation is with Wesley Bell, a licensed professional counselor based here in Oxford, Mississippi. Wesley's path into counseling didn't start in a textbook. It started in a lived experience. After criminal justice and working in project management, his own battles with anxiety, depression, and major life transitions led him back to school and into clinical mental health counseling. Wesley has worked with men and families across wide ranges of challenges, from addiction and trauma to identity struggles and rebuilding life after hardship. He brings both clinical training and personal depth into his work, including advanced training in EMDR, equine therapy. This isn't just a surface level conversation. We talk about panic attacks, identity formation, faith, fear, and why men are never meant to carry life alone. If you're tired of pretending you're fine, this conversation's for you. You went from criminal justice. We talked about that.
Yeah.
And then you had a shift. What brought you that?
Yeah, so I was interested in criminal justice, specifically federal law enforcement, just something that I was really just intrigued by and drawn to, and that was the path that I, was heading down. And then one of the things that made me just like make a major shift, I had a number of life circumstances, that happened for me, just in when I was in grad school. And so I had to make a decision on do I want to continue to go down this route to do because it's a long process if you want to do federal law enforcement. I mean, you typically have to start out, just as a beat cop, working the street, and then you have to work up to it. And then after you do that, you typically, if you get into a federal agency, they usually tell you where to go, right, for the first how many ever years. So a lot of times people that want to be home, that's usually later on in their career. And so I just decided to make a shift, and something that I ended up going and working at a place, really close, family, friends worked there. My dad was working there at the time. Was just a good place for me to land, to try to figure out what exactly that I wanted to do,
Yeah.
After that. Yeah. So, and that's when I decided to kind of, make the shift. Being transparent. A lot of it was my own personal, anxiety, and just really, some difficult times, which kind of made me pause and go I think I need to slow down, for a bit and figure out what I want to do next. And so through those experiences, that I had for myself, I decided, I went to see a counselor, in the midst of, the anxiety, and worked with that counselor for a while. And so, in that process, I decided okay, I've benefited from this, greatly. I actually saw two different counselors, one that was in my hometown, and then one that was here in Oxford, after I had started working full time. This was prior to me finishing school. The one I was still living at home, and I'm from Tupelo, Mississippi. So I had seen a counselor there, and then began to see one here in Oxford. And those two experiences were really helpful for me, really healing for me. And so I just decided, okay, maybe I want to do this. I like working with people. I think that's what, was drawing me, to just law enforcement, and the interest in how the human mind works and human behavior, and just working with people in that way. So I think just the idea of being around people and getting to continue to do that, and just in a way that was really helpful for me. I was what? I think I want to try to do this. And so that's really what made caused me to make this shift, to wanting to do this. I thought maybe I wanted to be a teacher or a coach, and went down that, even explored that path, to doing or being a teacher. So it was either teaching or counseling. And so I decided to pull the trigger on the counseling route. So yeah, that's kind of what made me make the shift, is just personal struggles.
Now, what was like, everyone talks about anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your symptoms you were having? Was it like rushing thoughts? Was it panic attacks? Was it a mixture of both? Because like everybody experiences anxiety, I think, a little bit differently, to a degree. And there's some patterns. I know that you can speak better on that than I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, if I look back over my life, I mean, I can identify anxiety at a very, very early age. Like it's something that's always kind of been present, for me, kind of like that unwanted friend that's just kind of always there. And so I recognized it very early on, but it really culminated and came to a head. Around the time I was probably 20 or so. And it began to exhibit itself, with the, racing thoughts, difficulty concentrating. And then at the peak of it, it was like, panic attacks, multiple panic attacks, a day.
Wow.
And there's a difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks. Panic attack is like the heart racing. It's really a physiological response. Sometimes really kind of comes out of nowhere, for people. Anxiety attack is more of just like it's like this flooding of anxiety. You may not have as severe of responses physiologically as you do a panic attack. So I would have like, multiple of those, a day. And so it really peaked, I had a doctor told me, I went to see a doctor. It was a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And she said, you have the severe panic disorder I've ever treated, which, by the way, if you're a practitioner, probably not a great thing. It's not a great thing to tell somebody that has anxiety, So, I had it pretty severe. So it culminated around, age 20. And that's how it really manifested for me, was that the panic attacks, sometimes during the day, sometimes waking me up at night, like as your body starts to just decompress from the day and like go into sleep. If it's in a higher state of baseline anxiety throughout the day, it's almost, sometimes panic attacks will happen, at night as your body's trying to wind down. It's almost like it's used to being at a higher state of anxiety. And so when you're going into like that, your body's trying to decompress and go into sleep. It's almost like it'll like jolt you. So I had some of those experiences as well. So it was pretty tricky for a while.
I don't know. This made it very interesting, but you said like the jolts, like, did it come just only during your sleep, or was it throughout the day?
Yeah, it actually happened for me more throughout the day than it did at night. There were just a couple of times that it happened. If I'm thinking back, it happened for me at night.
Was it like, did you feel like, would you explain like if somebody scares you, you just jolt like that type?
Well, it was more than that, but yeah, it's it was more than that, but when you're just at night, like when you are, as your body again is down regulating from the day, your brain waves change, your heart rate changes, your breathing rate changes. And I mean, I've talked to, a couple of people about this as have experienced it, is like when your body's going from that higher state of anxiety or higher just state of alertness throughout the day, you're kind of easing into that. It's almost like it's not used to that lower state, because you're just, for me at least, I was, just always in this high state of anxiety. And so when I would start to go to sleep, it's like my body would, was so used to being at that higher state. It's like I'd start to, fall asleep, and then it would just be like, boom, like this surge of adrenaline.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because I've had a close friend experience that very similar. And then I had a friend who had another friend who experienced that.
Yeah.
And they were just like, it's the craziest thing being around it. Like, it's like this, just these jolts. And you're like, what is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
It's like somebody's putting jumper cables to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And I didn't even recognize that you said there's a difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks.
Mm-hmm.
I never differentiated those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because, I mean, you can flood with anxiety and not, and not be in this, you can flood with anxiety and not be having like a panic attack, and so, I mean, like I would be during those times. I mean, I would be in meetings with people, which is probably, my ability to was probably part of the problem. My ability to be able to continue to function and to, I mean, I may be having like flooded with anxiety and in front of people and them have not a whole lot of idea, in that moment of what's going on, and then be done with the meeting and go back to my office and close the door and just lay down on the floor.
Wow.
To just catch my breath.
Yeah.
It was really dysregulating emotionally, physiologically, during those times. Very challenging.
I think it's interesting too, because some of the best athletes in the world, they know how to compartmentalize, I guess you would call that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great gift to have, but when you're hurting, it's not a good gift to have.
Yeah. Are you talking about like athletes that maybe have like an injury or pain?
Yeah.
And just be able to perform through it?
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or they have like anxiety on the field and they're just like, you know what, I just have to perform. And then they either do substance abuse to numb it or, yeah, it's really interesting how those giftings that you have that are really good could cripple you.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, when you're going through, like walking through your anxiety, did you find any nuggets in there that you're like, this was a big component of why my anxiety was spreading?
Well, there's a lot of things I learned, from it. So are you asking like why it was manifesting or why it was happening or why, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like what was causing it for me?
Yeah.
It was really confusing, honestly, being in the midst of it. Because in that point in time in my life, I really didn't understand like why. I knew there were a lot of things that were going on around me and a lot of changes happening, but I really didn't understand why I was having the responses that I was having. I lacked some awareness, and I was able to, I believe, get some of that awareness through counseling. And I can look back now and I have more of an understanding. I think it had a lot to do with, just from an identity perspective. I think that there were a lot of things that I had, just a lot of things that I was believing about myself that were inaccurate, and I see that a lot when I'm working with people, they would have had, experiences, in childhood or something of that nature that were, that caused them to begin to believe, like different things about themselves. For me it was I'm weak, and I'm less than or not good enough. Like those were the two things that I feel like I developed, pretty early on, just from, experiences. And so as I look back now, I think when I was going through, all those things, that I just think that was a lot of those things coming to the surface, right? I had, trying to, having those core beliefs about myself, and trying to develop an identity on my own to prove those wrong, or to to try to be something be something different other than feeling weak or not good enough. And so I can look back and see that there were a number of things that I had done even years prior to that. So, I'm talking 2021 when a lot of this started. So, I mean, even, prior to that, noticing some things that I had just begun starting to do to try, again, at that point, probably not aware of it, that was what was driving me. But now being able to look back and go, oh, yeah, like I see that now.
Yeah.
Like I see some of the decisions that I made to try to cope with those feelings, right? So I think there's a number of things. I think it was God's grace, to to allow me to experience those things. Because I don't think that I would have been able to recognize. I don't think I would have been able to recognize those things if I had not had those really painful experiences to like stop and go, where is all this coming from? Why am I experiencing these things? But I can look back now and go, okay, yeah. So this was in response to this false self, if you want to call it that I had developed. And I feel like it was the goodness of God to begin to dismantle that. And so I think the anxiety was linked, to those things, and I was stepping into adulthood. And so there was just, a lot of changes going on in life. And so when you step into adulthood, when you have a negative view of self, of like I'm weak or I'm less than you, in response to that, you're trying to do things to make you not feel that way, right? So that inadvertently puts a ton of pressure, right? So if I feel weak, well, then I need to try to make myself feel strong. So that's more pressure on self to do these certain things or perform or achieve I think it with those things plus, just the number of circumstances that were going on, I think it just, the pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure created a lot of that. But again, I didn't have any awareness, like at that point. Like, I just didn't wake up one day and was like, yeah, I think I'm weak and I'm not good enough. It was almost just this program, this lens that I was seeing life through that I didn't know was there. Or this program that was kind of running in the background that I didn't know was there. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Right?
And it's interesting how you worded that. It's like not being aware of your presuppositions. You have them, but you really don't know that you look at the world through that lens.
You don't. No. You don't, because again, it's almost like it's a program that's running in the background. It is like having on a pair of glasses that you have no idea that you have on. Yeah.
It's interesting you say that too, because obviously I've gotten the opportunity to do and work with a lot of men just in discipleship groups.
Mm-hmm.
And as of now, unless I'm having the goggles on, right?
Yeah.
I never really had a issue with low confidence when it comes to not being strong enough, to being weak. But I've had so many of my friends and it was really hard for me to relate on a level with them.
Yeah.
And when I was like talking with you, I'm just like, you're putting words, because you've already been through the storm, that I was trying to put to be able to connect the dots.
Yeah.
And that's why I would find that conversation so fascinating when I was in your office talking to you about your identity stuff.
Yeah.
And they use the same language in the discipleship group. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
They're not aware of the lens that they're looking at. And how can I show them that their lens that they're looking at it without offending them, for them to close it off. You know?
Yeah. Well, I think again, I think it's a journey to figuring out what you're believing, about yourself that is completely, incorrect. And I don't ever want to minimize anybody's experience. Like, for me, there were times where like things, happened, in my life. Like I was naturally very, I was introverted. I still am more of an introvert, even though I work with people a lot. I was more interested at an early age of like drawing and painting and doing those things. And so, I remember early on, like feeling like I felt a little different. I love to be outdoors, and like I was a normal kid and like run and play, but I was actually more interested relationally than I was like competitively. And when most young boys around you are more competitively wired, you're like, that feels a little out of place, and it kind of puts in some situations, if you don't, again, that goes back to the identity piece, but like when you're in those situations, and I played sports, and ended up loving sports, but early on it was, just like I was more interested in like, just being with other kids. And, so it was more of a, like, when you're not just naturally competitive. Some other kids can like kind of point that out. And if you don't know how to, that's why I think identity is so important. If you don't teach a kid how to buffer that, then they will adopt. Well, then I'm just different, or I'm not good enough, or when there were many things that I could do that God had gifted me with that were different from some of my friends around me. I could sit down and draw and paint, whatever, and we're just super observant. I was good at those things.
Yep.
At noticing nuances in people, connecting with people. Like I just liked doing that. And they were great. Some of these kids were just good at like they're warriors. They're out there. Like they're competitive. God's gifted them in that way. Right. And so, yeah, if it's really easy to take that on very early, and so, and then when you take it on very early on, it just, again, it kind of fades to the background, and it's the program that runs, or it's the lens through which you see things.
Now, we talked about like what you believe in and who you are matters. And I agree. I think it really, when you get down to your footers of your house, you start to realize where the footers are located.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I think the challenge is, how do people grow up? So did you like grow up in a Christian home? Did you not? Like, what was that experience like? And do you feel like that impacted your belief?
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in a Christian home. I always was, involved in church. I mean, I remember a smaller church that we went to the first few years of my life, and then switched to, another church. Just grew up in the Baptist church, and I remember having a deep love, for God, from a really early age. Like I just did, like, just had, just a deep, just a deep love for Him, and wanting to be, connected, to Him, and I'm thankful. I'm definitely thankful, for that. I think that impacted me. I realized, and again, now just looking at my, reflecting on my story, and I hadn't thought about these things in a while. I'm usually the one asking questions. So,
The tides have turned.
the tides have turned. And I appreciate it. I appreciate being able to reflect. But yeah, I mean, it was, there were some good experiences there. I now, I feel like as I grew, I did have trouble, like, I don't know, just connecting with, I don't know, just church as a whole, like I just, I don't know why,
Yeah.
not in a faith lens, but I just had trouble, connecting with that. What I mean by that is just, I think that I was desiring more discipleship and more transition from theology and things like that to like practical everyday. This is how you live it out. This is what you do. And it seemed as I got older to be more of like, we just go to church. Like I'm going to church on Sundays, and there's not a whole lot of transition, past that. So I think I think the piece that I missed, and that what I was really searching for, was more discipleship. Like I know that I have this sense that I love God, and like, but how does that transition to, like, how do I live that out as a, as a teenager or a young man? Like, I think that was just the piece that was, missing. I think that's why I started to have trouble, as I grew into, a teen. Like it's easy to connect with children's church when you're a kid, right? But then when you start getting into your, adolescence and teen and early adult life, and, just the realities of life begin to come your way, it's like, I need something that's going to transition from, like, I need it to work every day, not just on Sunday,
It's interesting you say that too, because obviously that's why I'm passionate about discipleship, because I feel like,
Yeah.
me and you talk about this in your room too, is
Yeah.
like the church does do not such a good job with discipleship stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it lacks relational pretty heavy. I mean, there is this big jump from the youth program
Yeah.
to adulthood.
Yeah.
And then if anything, it gets lonelier.
Yeah.
You lose your buddies. There's more responsibility.
Yep.
Yada, yada, yada. We can go down the list of potentially why that's the case. But we also lack this intentionality of relationships is what I believe. I mean, you talked about this. How do you feel like we can close that gap? Obviously, I mean, the pushback that I get is we're too busy, or, the season that we're in is just, there's no way we can sacrifice this time. And that's kind of scary words for me when somebody says that, because I'm like, but you're not designed to be alone.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you close the gap? I mean, I think if we're talking, like, just looking at men in general, I think it's harder for men. I think men connect with each other through shared experiences. And I mean, if you look at statistics, for church, the majority of church goers are women. And nothing against our, against women. I'm just, the facts are that the majority of churchgoers are women. And I think men find it really hard to connect with some of the aspects of how, just the structures that we have, in the church, and then societal pressures as well. So I would say that, how do we close the gap? One, I think this is just such not an easy answer to that question.
It is not. I'm thinking as you're thinking.
I mean, I think one way that you do close the gap is that you have to accept the fact that as a human being, it's not good for you to be alone. And I mean, I think the pandemic was a pretty clear indication of that. Like when we're forced to isolate from each other, like what happens, you know? People experience that on a smaller level day to day, but it's just easier to get. It's easier to get kind of, to just get lost in the day to day struggle. But I just think accepting that we have, like for us to be healthy and whole, like we have to be connected to other people. It's not good for us to be alone. And so I think any person, especially men, because I work majority with men, is just convincing them that like your life will be so much better if you are connected, especially to other men, especially to other men in the church. And yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways that you can do that, but that's scary for men, being, because once you begin to meet and talk and get to know each other, there's a certain level of like transparency and vulnerability that presents, which is can be another barrier. But that's part of that's part of closing that gap, is like accepting, okay, like I'm gonna have to be in community with people if I'm gonna be successful in this, if I'm gonna to just live life well, like it's better if I'm doing it in community. And then there's a number of things that I think you can do, in that. But I think within that community, then there's shared experiences. There's meeting regularly, with people. Also building in. I mean, you talked about going and doing this discipleship thing, like building in some experiences that are outside of the normal week to week, thing. And I mean, I even find that difficult for myself to do. I think we all do. I think it's a fight worth fighting, to be in it. I think that's how you start to close the gap is that acceptance. Like I need to be in community.
Yeah, I like too that, I mean, right when you said that, I was reflecting on some of the greatest friendships, male friendships I've had was because we went through this experience together that was tough.
Yeah.
Whether in sports,
Yeah.
whether relationally, like one of my friends lost his mom to cancer, and going through those things and having a consistent schedule where it's kind of forced to meet, and like my really good friend Armani, who's practically my brother now, is because we did sports together, because we had to go to school together, because we did these things, all shared experiences, we've had this tight bond.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you say that, because this retreat that I put on for this men has been the hardest retreat I've ever had to put on, because everybody's bailing.
Yeah.
They're too busy. They have too much going on.
Yeah.
And that's one of the challenges it's worth fighting for. Even if it's only two men going down there, it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's not easy though.
No. Yeah. It's not easy. And I think that it's easy. It is easy to back out on those things. If it's important to you, though, you'll make it work.
Yep.
If it's important to you, you'll make it work. And I have, again, I'm just speaking from my personal experience, and I've working with other people too, and I've seen them flourish being in community. But the times in my life that I was isolated, that was the worst. The worst I was, like, personally, we talk about spiritually, emotionally, those type of things, is when I was isolated.
Yep.
And not in connection with other men. I'm one of the really transformative things, and I think I'm still standing on some of those things that I learned is, again, I told you, like, growing up in church, kind of had this gap, but I got connected with a church here when I was right at the tail end of college, at the Orchard here in Oxford, and there was there was a group of guys, older men, that came around me during that time, and we met basically every Monday night for a couple of years.
Wow.
And walked through some content together. We walked through the book Wild at Heart by John Eldredge, which I'm a huge fan of. I honestly think that one of the reasons why I even have faith today is probably because of that, that group and that, just that the message from that, from that content. And yeah, I mean, that shaped me. And honestly, that was in the time I was, at the peak of that anxiety and those panic attacks and stuff like that. I just kept showing up, and kept being with those guys, and I could call them, and they knew the things that were going on with me. And now most of them have, as Oxford is, it's a transient place, and people come and they go. And so most of those guys are, gone, to different places now, but it was so transformative for me to be a part. And there were guys of there was one other guy that was close to my age, and then the rest of them were older and in different stages of life. And I could just come in and start, talking about stuff. It was so helpful for them to say, I remember exactly how you feel. And now I'm in my 50s, or now I'm in my 40s, and I have a wife, and I have children, and I have adult children, and I promise that, it gets better. And here's some things that were really helpful for me, just this structure. I mean, I just think that works really well. I mean, and basically in the way that society is set up now just not helpful for men. And it's just not. If you look back in generations previous, men spent time with other men, and they learned from other men. And some of those, maybe some of those things they learned weren't great. But for the majority of time, you would spend, you would spend time, with, if your dad was a blacksmith, that's what you did. You learned from him and the other men, and then you went, and there was just this more of a communal aspect, to it. And I think that was super helpful. I think that structure is super helpful for men. Is as I'm transitioning into a teen and a young adult and those things, that I'm in the community of older men.
Yeah.
And I'm gleaning some wisdom, from them. And I can go to them and ask them questions, and they're teaching me, and they can tell me when I'm talking too much, I need to shut up and just listen, I just think that is so super helpful. And so because life is complex and it's just not set up the same way that it used to be, we don't all just live in the same, live within the same 30 miles our entire life like people used to. I mean, now we have, a lot of different barriers to that, but yet that's why I think it's important to accept the fact that I have to be in community to be healthy, and to live life well as a man, and to accept that and then seek it out.
As you were talking, it just made me reflect more and more too on how society isn't, and churches are not geared towards putting men together to share experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is, we almost feel bad about it because we always need to put ourselves last.
Yeah.
Serve our family.
Mm-hmm.
We're on the back burner. Let's die to ourselves. Let's throw scripture out of context.
Yeah.
Right? Let's neglect all our needs that we have. Yeah. And all of a sudden now you're overweight, You're battling depression.
Yep.
You don't even know who you are anymore. And you grew up in a Christian home. Like, you know who Christ is. Like, you can quote scripture, but it's just like you're just deteriorating physically. Your temple's just gone.
Yeah.
And so I've been kind of wrestling with that a little bit on how I can help balance that. And I remember I got about a year to do men's ministry. And I was looking at the calendar of our church calendar.
Yeah.
Full with women.
Yeah.
All their events. I mean, they're having the time of their life.
They're so much better at connecting socially.
Yes. And I'm like, okay, how I could even find space in the calendar for us because it's been taken over so well.
Yeah.
Because the men aren't even pushing back against it.
Yeah.
They're not saying those things are bad in itself. They're not, but you need to push for your own advocacy too.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I wrestled with too. And I remember putting an event on the same day, and they wanted to move our event. I'm like, you guys already have the calendar full. Like, we just move it down a couple hours. And I was like, no, I did not budge. But obviously at the end, it just made more convenience and but I was just like, somebody's got to fight for us. Even if I think this is wrong, I gotta stand firm on this. Like, I can't keep watching this happen.
Yeah.
But it goes to what you said too, is just like, we got to have men within the church who are going to create opportunity and are going to fight it, because you're going to get pushback.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you do. I mean, there's always going to be an excuse, there is. There's always going to be an excuse. And there just will be.
Yeah.
And you'll be tired and you'll be beat down and it's, and there's always something. And yet again, you have to decide, you have to make a decision. Is this important, for me? And sometimes, and honestly, sometimes I think people have to experience the pain of isolation to realize,
Yep.
It's just interesting because it just is. It's a challenge, but just accepting, like, this is going to be a challenge. And yet I want to remain connected. And maybe it's only 2 or 3 guys. It doesn't have to be a huge group.
Nope.
And it's 2 or 3 guys, and you just, like, get together regularly, share about life. I got a couple guys in my life right now that I am so thankful for. I mean, just very thankful for. And just with, like, life and kids and all that, there are moments where, it just, it feels heavy. But I know I can pick up the phone and I can tell them the truth. I can truth tell to them and go, like, dude, I just need you to hear me out for a second. And just say it, and either have them, just listen, or sometimes I need somebody to say, like, stop talking, take a deep breath, and just let me remind you of what's true, and, like, just restore me back to, like, oh yeah, that's what's true. Mm-hmm. That's what's true, and then I can, walk in it. There's been many times, just over the last year that I've had to do that, just a lot of transitions and going, like, and it's better, honestly, that's even more helpful for, like, that's helpful even for my marriage, because I can call instead of, like, and vice versa. Like, instead of my wife feeling like I'm the only person that she can share burdens with, and she's the only person that I can share burdens with. I mean, sometimes that's just heavy, and so, if she's got a group of people around that are her community, she can go and share with them some of these burdens. And yeah, we're supposed to, carry burdens together, but I think I do not think it's healthy. That your husband and your wife are the only ones that are helping you carry burdens. Like, so I need men, she needs other women, to be able to do that.
Yep.
You know, and it's so valuable, so very valuable.
I have this, I guess this chain of events, and I want to get your input on it because I feel like it goes back to your identity.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when men receive pushback from the church, they think it's negative.
Mm-hmm.
When it's just, they're just pushing back. It's not
Mm-hmm.
good or bad or just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They want what they want. We want what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they go that, they feel guilt and shame, like they're not doing enough. And it goes back to their core values of what you were thinking
Mm-hmm.
of identity. And then boom, they just fold over.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that's a chain that would show a pattern potentially for men to be like every time they receive pushback and they don't advocate for other men to meet or be part of the church or do a men's group, they just fold over like, hey, honey, you're right. You know, I keep putting myself last. I mean, they're not intentionally doing that,
Sure.
but that's what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you asking me, are you wanting me to answer a question so I can get a lot of men out there in trouble?
Well, I want you to articulate your words so we're not in the doghouse.
I'm just messing with you. Yeah, I think it's, first of all, let me say this. Again, this is from my experience. I think it's been really helpful that my wife finds community very valuable for herself. And so because she finds it very valuable for herself, she also knows it's very valuable for me.
Mm.
I think, I don't know necessarily about, the church as a whole, but I just think if we from both sides, like, hey, this is just an implied, like, hey, men need other men and women need other women. And let's make sure that we are, working in harmony here to create an environment and in a culture that cultivates community for men and for women, because we know that that's important.
Yep.
And I think that's the key, is just understanding from both sides. Like, yeah, like, gosh, it's so important to do. It's so important to have that. So let's just cultivate a culture for both, that can be made a reality, but if, again, I think, it's something you got to fight for.
Yep.
I think it's something that you have to decide, like, this is important.
Yep.
And there's always going to be a barrier, or it's going to be too hard, or, whatever. And you just have to, I think, just make that decision of, like, however hard it is, I think it's important for both.
Yeah.
For both.
And I like how you put that, because I think how you say things is just important of the timing of things. I think those both two are pretty drastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously we've seen that with like the Charlie Kirk death, like timing is everything of when to say stuff, when not to say stuff.
Yeah.
But I like how you said we're just trying to harmonize it.
Yeah.
And I think that puts the perspective as this is a team sport.
Yes.
And just because we get pushback doesn't mean we're not still fighting for harmony.
Well, if I got pushback, like if I was trying to do a men's event or anything and I got pushback, the first question that I would just ask somebody that's in opposition to that is like, what are you afraid of? Because the reason you're getting pushed back is because they're afraid of something, right? Again, I've talked about a lot about identity, but almost everything that I've learned about identity, I learned from a company called Identity Exchange, and Jamie and Donna Winship are the ones who started it. And I'm really coining this, term from them, but like, inner conflict produces outer conflict, right? And so if you're getting pushback, that means that there's some level of conflict. That usually means that the other person is afraid of something, right? And so a good question is like, hey, I hear what you're saying. Like, tell me what you're afraid of in this situation. And it could be, well, I'm afraid that we're not going to have, any space to do X, Y, and Z, or I'm afraid that of this, and these different things happening. I think it's best to just start with what are you afraid of in any conflict, but in that one especially too. Like, yeah, conflict on the outside is produced from conflict on the inside.
Yeah, they coexist.
Yeah.
I like that too, because then you actually get to the root of the issue of like, okay, what's the challenge here? Why am I getting pushed back? And then you get more vulnerable with each other of actually what's behind the motives of the pushback. And then you actually can start to solve it.
Yeah, because it could be something simple, but it's usually going to start with fear. It's going to start somewhere, usually with fear. Any conflict you see.
Yeah.
Really. A conflict in a marriage, a conflict in an organization, a conflict with somebody on the street. We have quarrels and conflicts on the outside because they exist on the inside.
Yep.
At the highest level. You see two countries going at it. They got conflict going on inside. Some type of fear.
Yep.
That's one thing that I think every human being on the face of the earth, every human on the face of the earth can attest to experiencing some type of fear.
Oh yeah.
It may be hard for people to articulate like what love is and all these different things, but everybody knows what fear feels like.
Yep.
And so, yeah. But, as we were talking about, you got to fight for it.
Yep.
If you get pushed back, again, hey, what are you afraid of? Like, are you afraid of, could be in a marriage. Like, hey, tell me what you're most afraid of in this situation of me being in more community. Are you, and it could be, well, I'm afraid that I'm not going to have community and that I'm going to be more isolated because I'm here at home. Okay. Well, let's make sure that we create a structure where you get community as well, where we both step into community. It's not just me, whatever it is, but it's going to link back usually to something with fear.
Yeah. Now, how would you work through the process, whether it's a coworker, marriage, or whatever scenario you want to use, and you're close with this person? Because I've had some clients have challenges with this, and I'm just listening to them vent, but they ask a similar question of like what you fear, just in a different way, and they just don't want to talk about it. Like the opposing person you're talking to getting pushed back, how do you know to give them space, and what does that look like practically?
Yeah. So are you saying that like you're going to the person, there's conflict, you're asking them what they're afraid of, and they're just like not engaging whatsoever?
Yes.
Like how do you move forward with that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, obviously, I think it's situational. Like, I mean, there could be a number of circumstances and scenarios that's happening, but I mean, if you're getting pushed back, I think one, if it's a place where somebody's not going to take advantage of the fact that you're sharing openly, sometimes you got to model it first. Okay, well, hey, look, I understand that you're not interested in engaging in this. Like, that's okay. Can I just kind of share with you a little bit about what I'm afraid of in this scenario? And then as you share that, sometimes you modeling that first or being transparent can be really helpful, for another person to go like, oh yeah, I'm actually feeling the same thing. Or, he's not just trying to extract some information, or this person's not trying to extract some information out of me just to use it against me. Like they're really wanting resolution here because they're expressing to me first, like, this is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
In this scenario. I think it's always I think it's really good to try to model that. If you're asking that of somebody else to model it, I think that's good leadership.
Yep.
So I mean, that would just be my first thing off the top of my head is just trying to model that well. Yeah, that would be just kind of the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, what's interesting too, as soon as you said that, I remember Jesus being in the garden, and he told his disciples, "Stay up and pray for me. I'm gonna go out in the wilderness." I forget this scenario, and then he comes back, they're sleeping,
Yeah.
But during the midst of all this, he's telling them what he's nervous about and what he's scared about, and what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And right when you said that, it's like you have the guy who is 100% God and man, and telling you that he is nervous as heck for this next day is going to come.
Yeah.
And that, like you said, it does well.
Yeah, I think it does. If you want to look at just the numerous examples of, Christ and his humanity, like modeling things for us really well. I mean, he is the picture of what it looks like to be human.
Yeah.
And so just looking at him and how he handles different situations. And I think that's a great example of like him expressing to them, what he's nervous about. Like, my soul is burdened. Like, almost just like, please, like expressing that and like, can you stay up with me? Like even him, I don't know. It's amazing to me to see to read that and to see that and go, like he knew. I mean, it says that, for the glory set before him, he endured the cross. And so he knew that those things are going to happen. And yet he still like found like he was like even seeking like the comfort maybe, it seemed like, some people may agree with me. They see him as being disconnected from his humanity. And I don't agree necessarily with that. I think these were the people that, he had been with for 3 years and was closest friends. And I think he was truth telling to them. And in his humanity wanting, just them to be with him.
Yep.
And that, it's just I don't know, just the beauty of that, the beauty of his, humanity and willingly walking into that. Yet, he knew the outcome. Like again, going back to like, for the glory set before him, he endured the cross. Like he knew, but he's just so fully human and fully alive. Beautiful example.
Yeah, and it's just like you said, I can't wrap my head around it, how he was fully God and fully human.
Yeah.
But he did display both of those perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's like every time you try to argue the God thing, then all of a sudden now you become super dogmatic into the human thing.
Yeah.
And you start to lose the side of the gospel.
Yeah.
It's kind of like messing with I think this is what I've been wrestling with school and stuff, is like you have God's sovereignty, then you have human responsibility. If you lean one way or the other, you start to lose the gospel. But it's just two lines that go overhead that I don't know how they don't connect.
Yeah.
But they're both there.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been the thing I've been wrestling with and catching myself. If I lean too much on the human responsibility part, I become very legalistic.
Yeah.
And if I lean too much on God's grace and sovereignty, it's like, oh, I can sin. It's cool. Like God's got me. Yeah. And then I lean to this like Arminian review, antinomianism view of scripture, of just like, well, this doesn't matter what I do,
Yeah.
Which could, again, be a bad path too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think we're getting into a good conversation.
we ended on God's sovereignty and human responsibility. Do you feel like you kind of wrestle with that a little bit too, or you notice your clients that you get to work with wrestle with that in a sense, just in a broad sense, not in a sense where it's very specific, but do you see that overwhelming, like, man, I can see how they're kind of swinging this way and they're forgetting how God is actually in control?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and that's more of a theological question than it is, clinical. But I do think I do think those things intersect a lot, because most of the people that I do see would consider themselves, to be Christian, even if they're not. Like, it's our work together is still great. I work with people from all different, backgrounds, but yeah, I mean, I think it's easy. I think it's easy for all of us in the midst of difficulties. Yeah, just I mean, I think it's really just easy to forget some of the things that are true.
Yeah.
I know I can do this. Like, in the midst of something, the first thing on, I feel like it's getting. I'm thankfully, I feel like it's less and less, but I mean, sometimes the first thing on my mind is not God's omnipresence. Like, he's always with me.
Yep.
And he won't leave me. And so I think it's in the midst of difficulties, I think it's easy. Because I think, yes, I think it is just easy to, forget the things that are true. And I think experience is really a good teacher.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you an example, like, in the midst of the panic attacks that I was having and the anxiety, and then, the subsequent, depression and stuff that I was experiencing, I could tell you intellectually that God is always with me. But until I was in that experience, and I felt his presence there in the midst of some really painful situations, I don't think that I could tell you that that's true.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So sovereignty, yeah, I understand all those things. I think it's just, I think that sometimes it's easy to say things intellectually, and know the right answers intellectually, and yet, like, do we actually believe those things?
Yep.
I can sit here and tell you, like, I know, like, I could go back to that time and tell you, yeah, God's always with me. He never leaves me and forsakes me. But I didn't experientially really know that, until some of those moments where things were so loud in my mind, and his calming presence, and I know that's weird for people, to say that his presence, like, I knew that his presence was there with me, and I can't really explain it other than it was a calm in the midst of the chaos in my mind, in a lot of different ways, of going just like, just be at peace. Like, sometimes it was, call this person, or it was, like, you don't need to just stay in the room, like, in the room in the dark. You need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so I think when I have conversations with the people, I try to have a lot of grace for them, where they are, and just go, yeah. I mean, I need to know that he's always with me experientially. I think that I have more conversations about that than I do about, theology, because the last thing, again, there's a place for that.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Like there's a place for that, but in the midst of it, I think people sometimes just want to know that, like, somebody else is with me, and the things can turn around, and just to be reminded that, hey, like, hey, God does care for you, God is, he is near to the brokenhearted, and I mean, I'll be honest, man, like, I don't know if I actually knew that, like, in the depth of who I am until experiencing, some of the things I have walked through, and I can go, yeah, like he's close to the brokenhearted because I've been brokenhearted.
Yeah.
So I think I have more conversations like that than I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And what's interesting too is, like, because you have these people who mean well,
Mm-hmm.
and they just want to shove scripture down your throat.
Yeah.
It's like, this person's just trying to talk to you and maybe get validated of what their emotions that they're feeling. They might not be right, but they just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And to know that they're in it with them, and to give them hope, and to point where hope comes from. Like, sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah. And I feel, yes, and I feel like out of I think coming out of that, the thing that I feel like God has, has tasked me with, I think, my, like, part of my identity as an image bearer of him, what I reflect from him to other people is the one, like, to gift people with hope and to heal hearts. And the best thing I can do in those situations is to, first of all, be with them, hear them, and do that.
Yep.
Is give them hope, and not hope that I've manufactured. You know what I mean? It's that I first received from him.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not the source of hope, but I can receive that hope from him and then give that away to other people. And I may not even, it may not be in anything that I say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I say anything.
Right.
But I think that is the part of, really just the truth of who God has created me to be as an image bearer of him is to give people hope and to help them heal their hearts.
Yep.
And if I do that and I stay within that, and I don't try to be anything other than that and what he says about me, then I think that's the place that I need to stay.
Yep.
And I think that's what he's called. I think that's what he's called me to do. And so, I mean, there's a time. I love the scriptures.
Yep.
They're the goodness of God to give us, the scriptures that point to him and to, tell us about, the visible representation of the invisible God. I love them, and there's a time and place, for those, and I let those inform me, and sometimes, sometimes just living it out without even saying anything about it at times is the most important thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the pastors at the church I go to, and I believe he uses this quote from somebody else, but it just says that, like, preach the gospel everywhere you go, and if necessary, use words. Right.
That is so good.
So, yeah. Sometimes preaching the gospel is just about presence, being with people.
You talked about, like, the men that was, like, pretty drastic
Mm-hmm.
in your life, and in other words, a good way in your downtime. I mean, during your down season. How was your family dynamic, and what do you feel did well in your family dynamic with considering just the dad role?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you feel like you're going to try to do even better now as a dad? Like, how are you going to capitalize on certain things that you learned in your childhood, and how are some of the things you're going to pivot to maybe avoid some of the challenges that you went through? Not saying they weren't ordained by God, but
Yeah,
in a sense where try to raise men.
Yeah, I love both of my parents. Still very close with both of my parents. I mean, they're people, just like anybody else, just like I am, with that have done things really well and then made mistakes, just like anybody. I think the things that I learned, I think just there are some things that I learned, from my dad that I still carry, to this day, that are, they're really valuable, to me. And, one of those, most importantly is my dad's he's got a fantastic work ethic. I think that's really, really important, to be able to, give, to people, or to give to your sons. Like, I think it's great to have that, and to, just to be diligent, as well. I've seen him work really, really hard, his life, and, and I just, and seeing, I know there's some, struggles, I think that he had early on. And I think he's overcome those well. And so just being able to see somebody, and my mom as well, see them both have struggles, and to work through those and overcome those, And so I think what I want to do, I want to take some of those things and give those to not just, to give them to my children as well. And they were both loving, and so given that as well. I think the thing that I have learned that I just don't, maybe like my parents' generation, I think we just have we have a lot more information at our fingertips. We're walking around with mini computers in our pocket. I think the thing that is different for, like, our generation is that, we have more information. Sometimes that's good, for better or for worse. Mm-hmm. But just, like, for example, like human development and identity development, and like the stages of masculine growth that maybe they just didn't have, and now we know, like, oh, like, it's, this is really transformative, for a young man to go through, like, processes of initiation, starting from very, early on, because I think, identity is, I talk about identity a lot, but I literally feel like almost, everything that you encounter is in life, especially in what I do, is downstream in some form or fashion from that. But just like the identity development, and Eldridge talks about like every man, you've read Wild at Heart, you were agreeing and concurring with that, is like every man has that core question, like, do I have what it takes? And so what I really want to do, I've got 2 sons, is just to make sure as they develop that they know that they have what it takes to be a man, and to do that really well, and what that actually looks like.
Yeah.
I would define masculinity very simply as, like, when I think about masculinity, I think about like a man is meant to offer his strength to those around him, right? Which means that, like, I'm not doing anything or learning anything for just my own fulfillment. It's, if I'm trying to grow as a man, like, and learn something and know I have what it takes, it's not just to, like, so I can know that from a egotistical perspective. It's like, I know I have what it takes so that when difficulties come in life, that I can offer my strength to those around me, my wife, my kids, my coworkers, the people I come in contact with, my clients. I can offer the strength that I have to them. Eldridge talks about that a lot. Another guy that's in the Wild at Heart Ministries, Morgan Snyder, he wrote a book called Becoming a King. And he just talks about men becoming a generalist. He was like, he just says, something along the lines of, like, a generalist is somebody who knows a lot about a lot of different things. And why do you know a lot about a lot of different things? Is that so you can offer that strength to other people. It's not just like, yeah, it's for you're learning those things for yourself, but you're doing that because you want to serve other people around you. And so I just want to do that for my sons really well. Like, I was actually talking to my wife over dinner last week, and we were just talking about kids, and I just said, my oldest son is 5 and he'll be 6 coming up soon, and I said, I just want to start this process now, like of like just the, like, he knows his identity. And then there's a process of kind of like the masculine initiation where, it could be something very simple of, like, he's 6. Like, hey, this initiation, for you at 6 years old, and talk to him about that. Hey, one day, I hope it's a long time from now, like one day, you're going to be able to do this for your kids. And one day, when daddy's, gone on to be with the Lord, like, you'll have these things that you can give. And it could be something as simple as, teaching him how to use a hammer and a nail. It's something very simple starting out. And then as he grows, so does the challenge. So that, when he steps into adulthood, he has a sense, number one, of his identity. And he's also had these different challenges with me, or even other men too. Like, there may be things I don't know how to drive a backhoe.
Right.
But I may go with him when he gets a little older and find a man who does, who can teach him. That's just an example.
Yeah.
Right. but where men are with him as he's learning these. I'm not just going to leave you to this challenge yourself. And that's very much what God does. Right? So it's just, I think it's just mirroring that identity development, that masculine development for the sake of being. So that's what I've kind of rambled, but for the sake of knowing his identity and offering his strength to other people, to be other, like, to be focused on others, right? To be self-emptying, to show love to other people, right?
Yeah.
That's what I would want that for my kids or anybody else, you
right.
know. And there's some things that I feel like my dad showed me in that, and some things he didn't. But, again, like, you give away what you have.
Right.
And I feel like my dad's given me, what he had.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. Right?
Yeah.
We can't, we're not perfect. We're not going to give, there's lessons that our kids will have to learn that are not from us, but, you give away what you have. Right? And so I think it's my job as a parent to learn some of these things so that I can give away what I have. And I think it first starts with, like, just that identity piece. Like, I'm giving him, giving him the, who I am as an image bearer of God that points back to him anyway.
Yep.
It's like, hey, I'm giving you this, but I received it from him. So this is just me mirroring to you. Like, I got it from him. So go get it from him.
Yeah. And I like how you gave just practical examples of, like, what you would do with your son.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, your boys, really. Those are really good practical things. It almost sounds too basic, but if you actually spend time doing those and developing those, that's how you build this strong, biblical, masculine man. Is by that's the work you do. It's almost it's so basic it gets overlooked.
Yeah. I mean, I think dads probably put a lot of the pressure on themselves. I know I do at times, but I think it could be simple things, especially starting out.
And that's what in discipleship that I'm always really trying to advocate and push the guys is, like, y'all can do exactly what I'm doing. Y'all can lead a discipleship group one day. Y'all can put on retreats. Y'all can, like, I am just another beggar pointing you to the cross. All these talents, all these gifting that he's given me came from him. I am not the rock. He is. I am not the Christ.
I am not the Christ.
Right. So it's like, sometimes and they gave me some feedback. Sometimes they get a little discouraged because they almost start to kind of measure themselves with me.
Yeah.
And almost like we have different talents, we have different giftings,
we
have different callings. And I think as soon as, in that context, soon as you start to measure yourself up to another person who's different than you, grew up different than you, has different giftings, like, you're really going to kill all of your joy that Christ has for you. Yeah.
And I think it just goes back to tell the truth. Like, if you start to notice yourself, like, if one of these guys starts to notice that he is maybe comparing himself to you, like, if you don't know something, just say it.
Yep.
There's no shame in not knowing something. What you know or you don't know doesn't identify you as a person. So just say what you don't know. I had to have something done recently with a roof, and I don't know anything about a roof, and I just, as soon as the guy got out at my house and we walked around to where I was showing him what I needed him to look at, I just looked at him and said, dude, I don't know nothing about a roof, but you do. That's why I called you. So what can you tell me about that? And he just laughed, like, and some people are like, well, that makes me nervous because I may be get taken advantage of. It's like, actually, like, people just respect honesty and transparency, and, like, just tell, like, I don't know. I have no idea. I feel like I'm not good or at doing retreats, or I feel like I don't have what it takes to do a retreat or lead a discipleship group. I feel like I don't know enough about X, Y, and Z. Like, just say it,
Right.
because say it to other men,
Mm.
because then you can go, okay, like we can work with that.
Yep.
I can work with that. It's like, I don't know how to run heavy machinery. I don't know how to drive a backhoe. It's like, okay, cool. I can teach you that.
Yep.
But if I don't know where you're coming from, again, I've dropped some Eldridge things, but he just says like, it's the, what does he call it? Like you have to, he calls it exposing. He said, because most of what you see when you meet a man is a pose.
Yep.
And the quicker that you can just tell the truth and expose yourself, right? It's a weird term.
Yep.
But like just doing it, like you can learn.
Yep.
I think there's grace for not knowing. There's grace for not knowing.
It's interesting as you were talking to that about, I'm trying to figure out how did I get to this point in my life where I have all this confidence, and it's really every time I'm talking about confidence, it's always reflected towards the Lord. Like I felt that at a pretty young age, even though I really I felt like understand the gospel until I was 24. But that's one of the things my dad did really well. He did not act like he knew it all.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing I really appreciated about him.
Yeah.
And just like he messed up a lot, but he also did a lot of good things too.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. Like there'll be a guy coming over the house and he's about to fix our sub pump. And my dad's down there asking questions, learning, taking notes.
Yeah.
And then once he leaves, then he's like, yeah, so that way I don't have to invite him over anymore. Like he had the wrong heart towards it. But at the same time, having that tactic actually helped me.
I don't know if he had the wrong tactic. I don't know if he had the wrong tactic because like I think it shows humility, but also like the ability to be resourceful.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to do this, and so I'm gonna tell him I don't know how to do it, so he'll show me, and I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna do it myself.
Yep.
He
always did that, and that was one of the things that I learned about him. There was a guy over there. This was a couple years ago. Had chalk on the ground, and they're drawing a chassis frame for his drag car.
Yeah.
And he's down there with him.
Yeah.
He's never built a chassis in his life, but he's gonna sure try to figure it out.
Yeah. He's gonna figure it out.
That's just one thing. He never tried to learn, at least from what I thought.
Yeah.
I've never seen my dad try to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
He always was an advocate of working smarter. And if somebody knew it, he was going to try to get all their information from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like right when he said that, I was like, man, that just hit me.
Yeah.
When you said that.
Yeah. That's super valuable. Like, it is. It's very valuable. I got into, I didn't grow up around horses, but I got to really enjoy being around horses and owning horses. And like, I didn't know anything, nothing, but I worked with these guys, they have been around horses for forever. Like they're the real deal when it comes to like horses. Like these who can calf rope, like they are the real deal. And I know nothing about it. It's just, but the process of learning was great.
Right.
And then just being like, and being honest. Like I got no idea what you're talking about right now. You just use a term that I have no idea what you just said.
Right.
And then I got to enjoy being around those animals, and learning. And then just being like, yeah, I can, like now I know how to do this. When it was my buddy, he started, he just decided one day that, instead of like, he just wanted to take up being like a part-time farrier, like trimming horses' feet, shoeing them and stuff. He's good at it. And so as he was doing it, like I got fascinated with it. And so, there were a couple of days where like he was doing it. Like I just got back there with him and grabbed the horse's foot and put it between my, legs, squatted down, bent down, and was like, all right, now how do I do this right here? And I'd clip it and So I got where I could trim decent, like, but yeah, just like, I don't know, just, and like he knew right off the top, like this guy had nothing about it, but I just say it, be like, I don't know how to do this. And even go a step deeper. I think it's okay to say like, and I really don't feel like I really don't feel confident, about it. 'Cause that can be developed, but not if you don't just say, I don't know.
That's right.
just, I don't know.
Once again, go back to truth.
Yeah.
Just be truthful.
Yeah. Yeah. Just be truthful. Tell the truth.
Now, we talked about horses.
Yeah.
Now, I just call it horse therapy, but I know there's a word for it.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit, explain what that actually is practically for counseling and how you used it.
Yeah.
Who would benefit from it, who would not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm currently not, over the last couple of months, haven't been doing it. If you're in the South, it's equine therapy. If you go anywhere else, it's equine. They're both the same thing. It's so I mean, not currently doing it right now, but something I definitely want to circle back around to. I feel like the Lord just kind of led me to lay that down for a season.
Before you go, I think I found you a spot.
Okay.
I don't know if you already asked them yet, so this might be putting them on the spot, but I think this is good. You know where the International Guest House is?
Yeah.
Do you know they have horses there?
Yeah. Yeah.
I asked the guy who's helped leading that over there, and I was like, hey, I have this guy named Wesley Bell. He does therapy for horses, and they have trails and everything to go around there.
Yeah.
And I was like, would you guys ever let them, would you ever let him use it for some of his clients or a group?
Yeah.
They were just like, we would love to talk to him.
Yeah. Who knows?
So
maybe
we'll say that. Let's circle
back around to that. Yeah. We'll circle back around to that. Yeah. So equine therapy, and essentially what it is it's an experiential form of therapy. Okay. So like you and I right now are just, we're talking and a lot of counseling, sitting down with somebody, you end up talking a lot about like cognitive things, and it's, sometimes but it's not as it is an experience, but it's not like immersive. And when you're with a horse, it's an experience, an experiential form of learning. There's a couple modalities like under the equine, therapy umbrella. There's like equine assisted learning and equine assisted psychotherapy. So equine assisted learning can be more of like a group setting. So you are introducing the horse to drive home some type of concept that you want to, that you're trying to get the clients to learn. A practical just example of that would be, when I was working at the treatment facility, we focused on recovery. Mm. And so all of the groups were in some way, form, or fashion, pointing back to addiction or recovery. So we had a group powerlessness or boundaries or those type of things, and we would do things with the horse and the group to try to drive home that point, so they could see it happening in real time. So people really resonate with that because sometimes they don't like just sitting in an office and talking. I think it hits a different portion of the brain. And I mean, when you're in the presence of a 1,000-pound animal, 1,200-pound animal, you are like fully like immersed in this, and so it's really hard to think about all your problems, and when you're in the presence of this animal, and you can just learn so many things from them. If you've got like attachment wounding, it's so much easier sometimes to start by developing an attachment with that animal than it is another person. Just this animal's present with me. without any judgment, and it's showing me some positive connection. It's coming up to me, nudging me, wanting me to pet on it. It's, like it just wants to be with me. And I worked with people struggling with addiction, have a huge heart for people struggling, with that. And a lot of times they've been so hurt. And it's hard to trust people. And so they don't trust anybody, but they'll trust a horse, which is a segue to maybe I can trust a person again. So it is therapy. It's experiential. It provides a different avenue for learning different concepts. It's really powerful. You can also see it for people that have maybe intellectual disabilities or some type of like even people that maybe have trouble. What word am I looking for? Just like with their gait cycle or movements, right? Sometimes just getting them on a horse if you can, or there's so many different things that you can do. And I've seen so many people walk away from a session, with a horse, just very moved, very, very moved, very touched. The majority of what I did, at the treatment facility was that equine assisted learning. So it was a lot of groups. We didn't really have the space or the capacity to do just the one-on-one psychotherapy. But both of those are very, very, very beneficial. I just randomly kind of got into it, Didn't grow up around horse. I always loved horses. I did some horseback riding when I was a kid, every now and then, but never really grew up around them. And then I was like, wait, this is a thing? Like people can do this? And then, just learn to love them. Love to learn to ride and all that stuff too.
It's interesting you said that too, because I didn't grow up around horses at all either my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this in the room or not, but when I went to junior college, my uncle had 4 or 5 horses.
Really?
And I don't know if you know, but I went from about an hour north of Chicago, where there was a lot of stuff to do, to Boonville, Mississippi, where Walmart was the happiest spot to be in. I
know where Boonville is.
I know, because you're a Tupelo person, and I would go to Tupelo to get away from Boonville.
Yeah. So there, what do? You go out and you find something to do.
All I did was lift weights and ride horses. My uncle taught me how to saddle up one day.
Yeah.
And that was history. He said I was out there almost every other day, just riding. One point I was training the horse to get faster. I had no idea what I was doing. I was watching YouTube, but it felt fun and was something to do. And
it felt fun.
And it was so cool being outside and in the woods and with God's creation.
Yeah.
It was just beautiful. I watched him shoe a horse, and one horse got an infection, and he just knew a whole bunch about it. I mean, he grew up in stables.
Yeah.
And so he just knew so much about it. So I remember some of the best days were just me getting on the horse by myself and just going out there.
Oh man. Yeah, no doubt. Like some of the best days I think I've had in the last couple of years have been in relation, to a horse. Me and some buddies, we went somewhere and did we stayed one night, did a long trail ride the next day, rode for like 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours. And it was just out in nature. And that's another thing too, is with the equine assisted learning, we would do trail rides. And so it would be like myself and 5 patients, and usually, one of the other guys, or them in front and 5 patients and me in the back. And just taking clients for an hour trail ride and just tell them, hey guys, look, we're not going to talk to you about anything for this hour. Like you're trying to learn all this stuff. You're in treatment. like there's just one thing that I want you to do in this situation is just be present, be mindful, be where you are, enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the fresh air, the movement of the horse, be fully present. And so much fun,
man.
So much fun, you know, and you can learn a lot from them. You can learn a lot about just yourself, your relationship to God, you know, a lot of things. Some days I think I know that I've responded, you know, a horse is kind of flighty by nature, and they have, you know, they have fear, but a horse can, you know, learn to trust you, you know, and the relationship between you and the horse. I think that really mirrors, you know, the relationship with God, is just like walking through things that are fearful and having that, you know, trust. Yeah, there's so many metaphors and stuff working with horses.
Yeah, and I didn't realize it until I was talking to you into your office, and I was just reflecting as I was driving back. I was like, man, I mean, I had therapy by myself with the horse.
Yeah.
You know, I just didn't even realize it, like, of how just being with the animal. And the crazy thing is, this horse is way bigger than me.
Oh, yeah.
And it can completely destroy me at any time, or give me a nice little back kick and end my life.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it wants to listen to me.
Yeah.
And no, not all horses. There's horses that are stubborn, and I have a fair shoot. But the horse that I had and got the privilege to work with for a long time and ride all the time, all he wanted was to hang out with me.
Oh, yeah.
The dude was trying to chew on my hair, mess with me. Sometimes he would nudge me to knock me over, and then do his little nostrils and act like he was laughing. I mean, he was just a crazy horse.
Yeah, just crazy. Yeah. They're so smart, man.
Man, it's incredible.
They're so smart.
He would get so frustrated with me if I wasn't riding him, and he would just go over there and start gnawing on wood that he knew that would make me mad. He just starts biting it. Every time he see me go over there, and he'd start biting it. I'm just like,
let's go. Yeah.
But we had Tennessee walkers.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying to learn this terminology. We had this one horse at the very end, we got a quarter horse.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what, going from a Tennessee walker, I'm like, man, this is such a smooth ride. And I thought the Tennessee walkers were pretty fast, man. I thought they were pretty. I'm like, dude, I got a fast Tennessee horse over here, you know?
Yeah.
And I jump on the quarter horse. It was the most bumpiest ride I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And those suckers are fast.
Yeah. 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 I mean, they're, you know, they call them a quarter horse. They're bred to run full speed at a quarter mile. You know, they are. And those are, that's what I dealt with just quarter horses.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, yeah, they're fun. They're definitely, they are fun to be around. I don't think I ever rode a Tennessee walker.
They're smooth, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
That gated walk.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah. They're
so
very smooth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But I also think it's very interesting about just horses in general, like being around them and being around in the midst of other people, like you were saying, and how you mentioned just there's a certain amount, a part of vulnerability you have to have with this, because you got to communicate with each other, because you have this two huge animals, and if they get in a fight, like, or they get mad at each other, or they get spooked together, like it's this shared experience that you have, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know how to describe how.
Like, yeah, it is that just shared experience. It's incredible.
Now, when you're using like horses for therapy, do you prefer, like, it's just, if you had to choose, do you prefer like having just you and another person, you guys just go trail ride together, or do you like group if you had to choose between the two?
Either one. I love a good trail ride, and I love being with just one person or a very small group. But I like working with bigger groups and just, you know, driving home some concepts, helping people learn, interacting with people. I love either one of them.
Do you personally have a horse?
I did. You know, as I mentioned earlier, I had 2.
Oh, now?
No, I did. And I felt like, just again, I just kind of felt led by, God to step away from it for a bit.
Gotcha. So I missed that part. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I was so intrigued about the horse therapy.
yeah, I did, and I was not necessarily happy about it. But I prayed for a while about it, and I never got, like, I just feel like that was what he was asking me to do in that moment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's, again, yeah, it was very difficult for me. Very, very difficult for me. But, I hope to circle back around to it one day.
Absolutely. I'm hoping, like, we'll talk more about it, but the International Guest House, I think it's perfect because they're a Christian ministry out there for international students to have a place to stay. I don't know if you know much about them.
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. And so I'm like, man, the horses are just sitting there anyway, and they love for them to be ridden and taken care of and hanging out with. But before we go down that rabbit hole, what has been the most challenging aspect of counseling personally for you as you're growing in your career?
Well, as you know, working with people, and this is me too at times, it's like every person is able to heal, but not every person is willing to heal. And that's the hard part, I think. And I just try to accept people where they are.
Yep.
Because I know that there were many, many instances, in my life where, I needed to change something, and I just wasn't willing to.
Right.
Even if it was harmful to me or people around me, So I think that's the hard part is just seeing a person and knowing that healing is available. But they're just not at a place where they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's hard because when you can see somebody and be like, man, this is an amazing person. There's so much, beauty in who this person is. And they're just not at a place where they're willing to engage, with that. Again, we're all able to do it.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily all willing to do it. And I think that's just the hard part. Not because I'm mad at, I'm mad at a person. Yeah. It may be frustrating, but just because I know that healing is available, and yet, just not entering into it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. I mean, that's the hardest part, I think, with working with, I mean, I'm a human too, so just, again, reflecting back over my life, it's like, yeah, there was just some, difficult things that, like, I just wasn't willing to change in that time. So, I mean, just seeing that with other people too, just going like, yeah. And I think that is the hardest part. And yet I think I probably earlier on, even if I didn't show it to people, I think I had some frustration about that. And I think I've just had to spend some time, I guess that's the church answer, but it's the real answer. It's like, I just had to spend some time with the Lord on it and go like, I don't know why I keep getting frustrated here. And sometimes it's something not even about them. It's more about me. But, that's the hard part again, is just knowing that the healing is available and anybody's able.
Yep.
But not everybody's willing. That's the hard part. That's the most challenging part.
Yeah. And it's hard to balance. I mean, as a coach too, at Fitness, you get people come to me all the time. They say they want to change, and then they get in here, and then everything that you say they don't want to do. It's like, okay, well then do yours. Like, well, that plan doesn't work.
Yeah.
You've already tried that, 10 years in a row so far. It has not changed.
Right.
So, it's like you said, it's hard trying to go through that at times.
Yep. Yeah. And what I've learned to do is just like slow down in those moments. There's a form of, it's like a approach to therapy called motivational interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably heard of it.
Yep.
And it's got like the stages of change and like the pre-contemplation, the contemplation, the preparation, or, those type of things. And so you got to really, I think it's so much easier for me now. Again, I'm not taking it personal if somebody's not willing to change something. I'm just trying to ask myself, like, where are they at in the stage of change? And then I'm also looking and going like, is there some type of fear, guilt, or shame that they're having here that's blocking them from wanting to change something?
Right.
Usually there is, but I'm going back to like, yeah, okay, where are they at in this? And what are they motivated to want to change? It's small incremental steps. So maybe if they may not be willing to change anything at all. And if they're not, that's your choice.
Right.
But they may be willing to change some things very like smaller, just smaller things along the way to the bigger goal. And so you just kind of gauge where somebody is with that, and use some of that motivational, interviewing. I mean, it was, it was created, motivational interviewing was created to help people struggling with like substance use.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, when it comes to substances, it's hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And people just may not be willing to do that.
Right.
And you got to kind of accept where somebody is. You can't change anybody.
Nope.
But using the motivation that the person does have, because maybe they're not willing to change in that area, but maybe in somewhere else.
Yep.
But it's still hard. It's still hard to see, to see it.
Yeah. It's for me too, as just a coach, I'm always thinking, okay, are they just unwilling to change, or am I not seeing the small changes that they're already making and they feel like they're making?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, I'm always trying to balance that out so that way, like you said, slow down, don't take it personally. Everyone has their battles that they're going through. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I will say that was one of the most challenging aspects of my job too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know like fitness coaching and like in counseling, I mean, you're gonna end up bumping up against some of the same things. You're going back to like people's again beliefs about themselves.
Yep.
In both settings, those are going to come out.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that you have encountered that.
Oh yeah, that's the cool thing about fitness. You see everybody when they get their goals, they're happy. They're, just show a lot of gratitude, a lot of joy. And then you also see them sad. You see them frustrated. You see them angry. Yeah. You see them depressed. So you see all these attributes because that's what fitness does. It just, when things don't go your way, I mean, you're human.
Yeah.
I do it too.
I've never worked I've always been like, well, I'm married to a fitness trainer. And so, I mean, I've heard her say that the people are at their most vulnerable, when they're sweating and just working, like, they're at their most vulnerable. So, I mean, that in itself is I think another form of therapy.
Yep.
You can't separate your body, from your mind and your emotions and your, soul. Like those are all intertwined.
Yes. I am with you on that.
All intertwined.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't separate. I mean, I don't know how they're all connected, but they are.
They are. Yeah. Yeah.
It's remarkable how that is. I think that's fascinating in itself. I think it shows God's glory even more,
Yeah. They're all interconnected. We are one whole being.
Yep.
That has, there's many different pieces to that.
And that's one of the things that I continue to learn in this biblical counseling road that I'm going down at Westminster is they talk heavily about identity.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily use that word, but it always goes back to, who do you think you are in Christ? Mm-hmm. Why do you think that? And in this context of Scripture, are you reading scripture through that lens?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, well, then we need to figure out why you feel that lens is, or how can we create awareness in that lens?
Yeah.
So it's obviously heavy theology, but it's really fascinating how those, like you said, those are connected.
Yeah.
And it's like you go to all these different types of motivation interviewing, you go to Westminster, you go to all these other courses that you take, and they're all coming down to, who are you?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that where you're getting out of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It all comes back to that. It really does. At least that's what I'm seeing in my own journey, and just seeing with working with people. I think almost everything is downstream from that. It's downstream from an identity, issue. And it goes back to that, lens that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm walking into situations with the lens of I am weak or I am not good enough, then I'm going to respond in those situations based on that lens that I'm looking through. And most of the time that lens is not even accurate.
Yep. It
feels real. I've had experiences that lend itself to that, and yet it's not. Again, I mentioned that I've just learned a lot about identity through Identity Exchange, that company, and one of the things that they talk about is that you can't get your identity from what you have, what you do, or what people think about you. If you get it from what you do, what you have, or what people think about you, those are always changing, right?
Yep.
And so it has to be from a more solid place. All right. If I'm getting it from the type of car that I have, what happens when that car is wrecked? Or if I get it from the fact that I'm a counselor, or a fitness professional, or a police officer, or a lawyer, what if that goes away?
Yep.
Or what if one day everybody likes me and is praising me, and the next day they're cursing me? So if I get my identity from any of those things, then it's always changing. It's always changing. It's always moving. And so identity, I think, is something that is central to faith. And there are so many things. There's so many things that are true of us as being and abiding in Christ. There's so many things, ministers of reconciliation. You are the light of the world because I'm the light of the world. Salt of the earth, those type of things, these things are all true about you because you're in Christ, and I also think that each one of us has we bear God's image differently than each person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's all things that we as image bearers bring forth, and then there's also things that you bring forth that I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I may be really, really good at giving people hope and helping them heal their hearts. You may also be good at that, but you may also be better at creating order. Right?
Yeah.
And so if we're going into a situation where people really need order, well, you should probably take the lead in this situation and help them create some order.
Yep.
Or if we're going into a situation that's it seems real hopeless and everybody around here has no hope, well, then maybe I should do something in the midst of that to help bring some hope. And you and I we reflect God's image in that way differently. But it's still parts of who He is.
Yep.
He's a God who creates order. He's the source of hope. You see, that, I think there's things that are all true about us kind of corporately, and then there's also things that are true about us individually.
Yep.
And I think, based on what I'm learning, that these things are a part of they're knit together in our mother's womb. And so if that's true and that source is God, then what he says about me is that stabilizing force, and when I'm in that, when I'm lined up with that, then I can be like, it creates freedom for me. I'm not trying to be somebody that I'm not. I'm being who I am. It creates freedom. It also is a gift to other people. It's a gift, and it's super transformative for a person and the people around them. So transformative for the people around them. The best thing that I can do for my wife is to be who God called me to be. My wife is very good at creating order. And I feel like that is the thing that she's just really good at. And the best thing she can do for me is is just be that. Is help me to create hey, I've got this issue and it feels kind of disordered. Can you hear me out on that? Can you help me to understand that? Dude, she a superhuman, just right
up her alley.
Yeah, it's it's my own personal version of ChatGPT.
Yep. Yeah, seriously.
So I mean, I just think that's so important, and I think it all comes back to that.
Yep.
So I've got some training in trauma therapy. Read anything on the trauma literature, on things that people have written about trauma, and they will say that it's not the event itself that continues to perpetuate the issue. It's the identifying belief that's developed because of that continues to perpetuate the issue. Now, there are some things physically and neurologically and in your body that you absorb and can be really complex. But at the heart of it, a lot of times what continues to perpetuate the issue is the fact that they are now believing something because of that about themselves. Somebody that's been in a pretty brutal car wreck, and now they believe to the core of who they are that if I get into a car, I may die, or I'm going to die. Well, I'm going to die is an identifying statement. And so every time they go to get in a car, their body reacts to the thing that they are believing to be true. And they start to shake and sweat, right? I mean, that's trauma. And so, see, if you think about cognitive behavioral therapy, a lot of it's built on how your thoughts connect with your thoughts, influence your feelings, and your feelings influence your behaviors. And so if you just change your thoughts, then you can change your feelings and your behaviors. And some of that is true, and yet that still links back to core beliefs. There's something if you're constantly telling yourself or you're constantly thinking that I'm an idiot, and some people think a lot worse about themselves than that. I'm being very PG, right? Yeah. But if they that's still an identifying statement. It's a belief about self, right? And once you hold that belief, again, that's the lens through which you see things. And so it's just interesting that it kind of has weaved itself. Identity is something that weaves itself through everything. With cognitive behavioral therapy, when they call it cognitive distortions. So cognitive distortions are something that we all experience, where a cognitive distortion could be something like they call it catastrophizing. So thinking only the worst case scenario. It's interesting. The definition of distortion is it's changed, something that is changed from its original intent or changed from its original form. So essentially, a cognitive distortion is our thoughts being changed from the original form that they're supposed to be. You see, so if we were if we lived in, if we were living more closer to the truth of like our identity, our thoughts would reflect that more. Not that we'd be perfect, but I think that it lends itself to like there would be less distorted views of ourselves and things around us. I think it just goes right deep to the source of who people is. Like I feel like their like identity is like the very central value source, right? Because I think that's the thing that reflects God's image.
Yep.
Right. So it's very deep to who we are. I can get really passionate about that, but it's been so transformative for me to realize the things that I, and clients as well, realize the thing that I believe about myself that's not true. To then be presented with what is true. And when you've ever heard the term like cognitive dissonance? So cognitive dissonance is when you're like, when you're holding two opposing beliefs as being true. Or if you have one belief and then you're presented with facts or evidence that are contrary, and you're developing a new belief, there's this, it's like a psychological phenomenon where it's called cognitive dissonance. And it's essentially where, there can be two different beliefs held as being true. And so you go through this experience of like, when you're realizing what you're believing about yourself that's inaccurate or not true, and you're presented with things that are, sometimes it's really painful and it's hard to like, and so it's a process. You walk out a process of, okay, I'm going into this meeting and I'm feeling like I'm weak again. And that's making me want to like not speak up about this thing that I have an idea about and cower. Okay, let me go back to like, Lord, what did you say was true about me? What did you say was true? Okay, let me come back to that. Like, what are you saying right now that's true? And then being reminded of what is. Like, okay, yeah, that's true. And the more that you walk in that peace, right, that you keep coming back to what's true, keep coming back to what's true, receiving what's true from Him. I think that's a part of discipleship, and I think that's how the old self kind of begins to fall away and become less of a reality. And then what is actually true is something that, okay, somebody's adopting a different belief. Like the belief is actually what's true. That was a long, really, really long.
That was so good though.
Like rant about just, how I think it just is in everything.
Yeah.
It's in everything.
And it's interesting how too, is like, I was kind of stuck on those two opposing beliefs. And this is kind of what's going on in my head. Tell me if I'm getting the concept right. It's like two wars fighting, and you're in no man's land. Mm-hmm. And you're like, which? Mm-hmm. As Christ.
Yeah. Well, and it's coming back to it. Like, what does He say that's true?
Yeah.
And a regular practice, for like that I have, just been developing again on what I've learned, from others in this is that of just spending time, like, okay, these are the things that are true about me as Scripture says. And then, like, I'll just spend time in prayer. Like, God, can you, like, I'm believing that this is true. Can you please, in your goodness and your mercy, not because of me, but because you're merciful, like, can you please just lead me in this? Tell me what is true.
Right.
Please, speak to me and tell me what's true in this situation. And that's just really helpful. It's like anytime I feel fear, because if I'm feeling fear, I'm proud. There's likely something that I'm believing that may be inaccurate. It's a good indicator.
Yeah, I think just like what you're saying about replacing thoughts, letting God's voice really
Mm-hmm.
push those lies out for real truth in.
Mm-hmm.
Because like a lot of what I've noticed, at least the people who are not Christians, and not saying this is their intent, but what it seems like from my perspective through the lens I look at, it's just like when everything they say about we need to meditate, you need to clear your minds. I'm like, God's word says you don't need to clear your mind. He says you need to fill it with his truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I get that. I'm not saying there's a time and place where somebody just got to
Yeah.
wind down and chill out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like some of those people, they just need to know who they are in Christ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the truth of who they are. Because again, that's what creates peace. It creates, again, we talked about how external conflict is sourced from internal conflict. So when there's less internal conflict, there's less external conflict. You know, when a person is knows who they are, there's just less external conflict too.
Yep. I like that. Now, for the future now, forecasting, where do you see yourself 5-10 years? Where do you want to go with your career? Like, where do you see it going now?
You know, beginning of the year, I probably could have given you a better answer. Now I really just, I don't know. This has been a huge transition year, you know, for me. You know, I really want to do more around this just identity, you know, piece, because I do think that it informs so many different things. I love working with men, and so I would love to, either through experiences with horses or, you know, immersive experiences where I take, you know, there's a group of guys that, you know, 6 to 8 guys, and you go on 3 or 4 day kind of, you know, trip, you know, into the wilderness or something, disconnected from things. And you walk through that, you walk through the identity piece. Like, let's identify what you're believing about yourself.
Yeah.
Right now. That's harmful to yourself.
Yep.
And then let's walk through the process of getting rid of that false and receiving what's actually true. And then how do we walk in that? You know, and really spending time, you know, with Jesus on those things. Completely disconnected, you know, from the distractions. You know, I mean, you saw a lot of, just look all throughout Scripture, like, you know, men were going to the tops of mountains, and, you know, Moses was in the desert, you know, and I know those are also metaphorical, you know, like they're real, but then also there's metaphor of like being in a wilderness, right? But like, I think, you know, Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, and he often withdrew to lonely places. And so I think there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in that. And there were challenges then, but I think there were a lot less distractions. No cell phones, no phone. Like, I think there were a lot less distractions in that day and time for humans. And, you know, there's a lot today.
Yep.
So I think disconnecting from that for a while. But I would love to do that.
Man, that'd be sweet. I mean, I'm fired up for you when you're talking about it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
What do we got to do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just like, I really am, I'd really love to do that. Just continue to work with people, in a counseling space, and, you know, even some, you know, like coaching as well, whatever that is, you know. So, it's just really what I, you know, want to do. And, I really just want to, like, again, if I feel like part of my identity is giving people hope, I really just want to give people hope. Because, dude, I've been there. Like, I've been in the midst of the hopelessness, you know, and I've got, you know, and this is the thing I need to say is, like, it doesn't matter your circle. Like, you could have good people around you, or you could have no people around you. You could have all the money in the world or none of those circumstances matter. Hopelessness touches people, no matter circumstance. And I have been there, and I have had those moments where it's like, man, looking out over the expanse of my life, and it's even hard to say this out loud, but, looking at, like, when I was in those moments, looking out of the expanse of my life and going, if I feel this way for the rest of my life, like, I can't do that. I can't do that, not that I didn't want to, like, continue to live life and, those type of things. But there was those moments where I was like, yep. Like, I can, if this is what it's like, and it's going to be this way, because it was a number of years struggling that way. If it's going to keep being this way, like, I don't know if I can do that. And so I just want to give people hope.
Yep.
In that. It's like, it does change. It does change. Do not give up. Do not, like, the world, like, you bring something and you bear something of God's image that nobody else does. And, like, that is the gift that you can give, and healing is possible. Yep. Healing is possible in that. And we need the gift that you bring. We need the particular part of God's heart that you image forth to everybody else. We need that. And if you're not here, like, we don't get that.
Yep.
And so I just want to give people hope. I want to help people heal. Because I've been broken. So I want to help people.
And I really like how you, like, portrayed that and explained that so thoroughly and well in regards to circumstances, because it's like, you're, at least from what I'm getting, you're really not talking about your circumstances.
Mm-mm.
You're talking about, in the midst of any circumstance, who am I?
Yep.
And that is so powerful, because that also sets the tone, in my view, of like what I've learned. That's how you get stronger in the midst of the chaos of the storms. Yep. It's not the absence of them. Anyone can have a great life when there's no storms coming your way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the absence. It's not the absence of the storms. They will come. Like, in this world, you will have trouble. Yep. Take heart. I've overcome the world. How do you take heart? And you come back to what's true. You come back to what's true about him, what's true about you, and you hold on to it. You have to hold on to it with everything, like, just, and getting rid of what's not true. Empty it out. Get it out. Get it out. Get it out. Give me what's true, please. Please give me what's true. And hold on to it.
Yep. And
walk in it. And experience it. Experience it with him. And yeah, it doesn't, again, it's coming back to who you are. Circumstances, like I said, you could have everything or have nothing. Either one of those situations, you can experience hopelessness and you can experience brokenness. Yeah. You're gonna have trouble. And sometimes I think God invites us into it. And that's the piece that I think is hard to talk about. But, sometimes I think people step into trouble and they're not being invited into it. And sometimes I think they're being invited into it. And I think if he is inviting you into it, that, like, just walk with him in it.
That's well said.
Just walk with him in it.
Yep.
I think he was inviting me into panic attacks.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go. I did not want to go. I think that's, probably why the struggle was prolonged, probably, for me, with anxiety and stuff like that. I think he was inviting me into it. I just didn't know that. We had this, I actually said this to my wife last night. I was like, when things are going really well, it's, people are like, man, it was such a God thing. It was such a God thing. So I'm true. Like, honestly, I think everything is just like such a God thing. It's either read the cloud of witnesses.
Yep.
The heroes of their faith. Sawed in half.
Yep.
Martyred.
Mm-hmm.
Was God inviting them into it? I think he was. Now, I've never been in that situation. And I can't sit here and tell you that I've got I would hope that if I ever did and I got to that point that I would receive the faith from him to do that. I've never been in that situation. I don't want to make light of how difficult I'm sure that is, but I do still think that he he's God is always inviting, and even at times unto death.
Yeah, it's
and again that now we're just anyway. Yeah.
No, it's powerful because what you just said too is I've been using this term probably the last couple of years with clients who feel like hopeless and they're just like disciple guys, or clients I've been with in a while. I'm just like, well, if you're a Christian, how do you suffer well? Because you're going to suffer. How are you? And some of them look at me like, what? This ain't from God. They go down these and like, whoa, it's not. That means God's sovereignty doesn't exist because now you're floating way over to human responsibility.
Yeah.
God is sovereign in the good and the evil. He allows it to happen. He doesn't tell you that it's going to happen. He doesn't want it to happen.
Well, and I think we can look at that and just look at Christ and go, God, thankfully God became, flesh, and he was walking into that. And it's even so hard for me to understand the Father and the Son. I think that's a mystery. You could spend and I think we will spend an eternity understanding. But just the fact of as the Son, the Father was inviting him into laying down his own life. And, we would look at that and go, from all standards, that looks like a loss. And yet it wasn't.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't. And, that's, again, I think when good things are, and I even saying that out loud is hard to even fathom but it is, it's good things are a God thing. And then sometimes the things that we think are bad they're also a God thing. I think he's just inviting us into these things, but you have to do it with, you have to do it with him. You just do.
Yep.
You don't want to, and I'm trying to learn that. I am trying to learn that so desperately for myself. It's I don't want to step into anything that he's not inviting me into,
Yeah. And what's fascinating about you just saying that is if we as Christians do try to go through the storm without God, we will build only arrogance and pride because we did it.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. But if he's the one leading it, then it's follow me, and we're following him into it rather than, it's something that we're creating or boasting or, and yeah.
Or even on the contrary, if you try to go through the storm and you fail, then it's again on you, right? It's
yeah,
it's just, like you said, it goes back, going back to the identity thing again, it's not who you are, but whose you are.
Yeah. And you can't get your identity from if you fail, so it just goes back to what, again, this is what did I learn from that?
Yep.
What did I learn from having, what did I learn from having panic attacks? What did I learn from, because that felt like a failure,
Yep.
Like I just can't handle life.
Right.
It felt like a failure. And it felt like, okay, for looking out over the expanse of this, like I'm just not going to have any more, I'm not going to have the joys and things that I thought that I was going to have. And life is going to be incredibly challenging. And it is incredibly challenging, but, or not being able to, go towards, doing criminal justice because of a number of issues.
Right.
And I think it was, just again, God's grace for me in those situations. I think my mind was just really twisted up,
Amen to that.
And so that felt like a failure. And I think, for a while, I just added that to the resume of being weak and not good enough. And yet God was like, you're getting your identity from that. Like, that's not even where that comes from. Like, I'm just trying, like, it was an invitation to him. Now I can look back and see it as an invitation. To heal.
Right.
Didn't feel like it at the time.
Mm-mm. I like that. We'll end there because it is 3:40.
Wow.
Isn't how crazy how fast it goes by?
Yeah.
Where can people find you? And not only where your office is, but is there any other sources they could find you?
Yeah. I'm here locally in Oxford, and I work with a group practice, Cornerstone Counseling, and we're right there off Office Park Drive. You can find me there. I'm not a huge social media person, so you're probably not going to find a lot on social media, but, I don't mind even giving you my email if people want to reach out to me by email, or something like that.
Yeah. Could you give them their email?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can just reach out to me. It's wesley.bell at cornerstone, .ms. So it's WESLEY .bell, BELL at cornerstone, .ms. And people can just reach out to me there.
Well, Wesley, I enjoyed it.
I did too, man. This was good. It's not like, I don't get to spend a lot of time talking. So that was really good. I mean, doing my own personal therapy and sitting with people and, or sitting with, people that are pouring into me, but just getting to talk at length. Yeah. So I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Well, you mind if I pray for you?
Yeah, let's do that,
Okay,
man,
awesome.
please.
Let me shut this timer off real quick. All right, dear Father, thank you for the opportunity just for me and Wesley as brothers in Christ, just to meet and talk about just the passion he shows with identity. I pray that you give him his faith and his strength that he needs to continue to capitalize on all the resources he has and the knowledge he's put in and the hard work he's put in to learn about identity and his experiences. And I pray that as he goes through that you open up doors, close some doors, so that way he can really find the tunnel that he wants to go down and really get a niche in, as long as that's in your will, Lord. And also just pray for, him getting back on the horses and having opportunities to do that if that's in your will as well. And just, we pray for the audience that we have here listening, that this conversation blesses them. And we also pray that we continue to be men after your heart. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Yeah.